The King's Avatar, Chapter 1300 Long History, Audio Source, wushaworldaudiobook.com. Chapter 1300, Long History. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. Mo Fan was testing his limits, but the reason why limits were called limits was because they couldn't be broken easily. Improving one's mechanics and awareness wasn't like farming for equipment in-game. You couldn't just get lucky and suddenly improve your strength with a piece of powerful equipment. These were things that were improved day by day, trying, slowly accumulating real battle experience. If you wanted to break through your limits, it was the same. It wasn't as simple as one day becoming passionate about it, deciding to work hard and achieving a breakthrough. Mo Fan was continuously testing his limits with disregard for everything else. He really was in a state he had never reached before in trying. However, breaking through one's limits wasn't like farming equipment. It wasn't as if once you accomplished it everything was good. An abrupt breakthrough was one thing, but mastering it was another. In other words, you had to accumulate experience bit by bit. Being able to defeat Sun Xiang, even if it was a one autumn leaf with only 72% of his health, was already an amazing breakthrough for Mo Fan. Against Du Ming, he wanted to continue, and was still stubbornly, even more wildly challenging his limits again and again. However, his condition had already been slipping, and though he had managed to surprise Du Ming, the other soon turned the tables. Deception's 14% health couldn't take much more before he eventually fell. Du Ming's victory was without suspense. Mo Fan's performance felt like it had plummeted at the most crucial moment. It seemed like defeating Sun Xiang had taken a lot out of him, however, he was still so fierce in this match. Although he was just a newbie, Du Ming still felt a sense of respect rise for Mo Fan. This kind of opponent who never gave up was always worthy of respect, no matter where, no matter if they lost or won. Leaving the stage, Mo Fan seemed rather worn out as expected. For him, it was a mental exhaustion. Constantly drawing together his focus to launch a barrage of intense attacks was like drawing himself tight like a bowstring. He had pushed himself, uncaring of the consequences. "That was too reckless of you," Yishu commented, looking at Mo Fan. Mo Fan quietly glanced at Yishu, but didn't say anything, returning to his own seat. Qiao Yivan passed a bottle of water over. Mo Fan stared for a moment in surprise before accepting it, nodding at Qiao Yivan in thanks. What was this guy thinking? No one knew. The only one who could really communicate verbally with him was Su Mucheng. And even if it was Su Mucheng, she merely spoke more often to him, but never got a look into his thoughts. Talk with him more often. Yishu was helpless and could only hand things over to Su Mucheng, asking her to guide the loner. By then, Happy's third player for the group arena had already stood. Tang Rou, after the 1v3 incident, had been a constant as the anchor for the group arena. When she stood, the atmosphere in the venue chilled somewhat. Even now, Tang Rou's popularity was still at rock bottom. Even their home turf fans weren't very happy with her. It was clear what position she had amongst the fan base. Plus, Happy only had her left while Samsara still had Du Ming's moon-luring frost with 91% health, and a full health Josekai, Glory's number 1, Josekai. There was no point in continuing. That's what everyone thought. Even if they announced Samsara's victory now, no one would care, probably. However, Tang Rou simply ignored all of this. She stood, accepting the encouragements and blessings from her teammates and walking towards the stage determinedly. Even if she heard the jeers from the crowd, she didn't care. In their home games, Happy's fans would give her face considering that she was a member of the team, but in an away game, Tang Rou was like a public enemy. If she could endure that, then this silence in their home game was like an applause. This sort of atmosphere in a home game was really rather strange and oppressive. Even Samsara's players felt uncomfortable, looking around at Happy's fans. They, of course, knew why this was, it was just that they didn't think it would be so intense. Tang Rou was receiving this sort of treatment from her own team's fans, the ones who would most stand up for them. And their support of Team Happy was so passionate too. This truly was strange. They all knew too clearly what this sort of circumstance meant for a pro player, but a young lady like Tang Rou still managed to endure. Samsara had researched Tang Rou's matches. After the 1 vs 3 event, the biggest change to Tang Rou was becoming the last line of defense in the group arena rather than the spearhead. Apart from that, there was no change. Her fearsome performance remained the same. Her popularity might have frozen, but her strength was still improving steadily. Amongst the rookies this season, she was definitely the best when considering pure ability. If it wasn't for the fact that she had started a little old, her future would have been limitless. Then, with her flawless looks and demeanor, a lot of people felt that what had happened with her was a shame. Slowly, there were some voices that spoke out, hoping that people could be more lenient on the rookie. However, there were always those that just wouldn't let go, especially esports homes Ruin Cheng as a representative, who was now a professional hater of Tang Rou's. No matter what article or commentary he was writing, he could always twist it to hate on Tang Rou a little. However, it was more Tang Rou's attitude that exacerbated it. If she could stand up and address the issue with sincerity, with the winds beginning to change and people beginning to stand up for her, then this incident might have passed by without further trouble. However, she didn't. Tang Rou didn't seem to have anything to say about this. This was why many fans hated her. Everyone felt that she refused to learn from her mistakes, staying as stubborn as a mule. Then some tied this to her appearance, arguing that she was probably used to being spoiled because of her looks, so she thought she was special and could do whatever she wanted. The few who spoke for her failed to pull her out of this slump. However, what was most depressing for the haters was that they couldn't use her performance on the field to attack her. After the 1 vs 3 incident, Happy entered a period of consecutive wins. The worst of their scores were 9-1, and even their loss against 301 Degrees was a 4-6. They had still managed to obtain the 2 points from the group arena. With their group arena always victorious, Tang Rou's performance as the last line of defense in the group arena was really flawless. This meant that they were trying to pick bones from eggs, discussing subjective things such as what techniques were appropriate. They had been left hungry for so long. But now, against Samsara, Tang Rou was in a difficult place as the last line of defense. It was such a difficult place that these starved people thought that even if Tang Rou lost here, it wouldn't be anything they could feast on. She was set against almost 2 whole opponents, with Zhou Zekai as one. Losing was all too expected. After Tang Rou entered the booth, the atmosphere changed, buzzing chatter arising from the crowd. The crowd was chatting, discussing, gossiping, like no one cared about the following match. Since they didn't like the next player on Happy's side, they had already convinced themselves of how the following match would end. There was no more sounds of encouragement. In fact, the number of people who were even remotely paying attention to the match had plummeted. Only Samsara's supporters were still cheering, happy that they would finally be able to take back 2 points in the group arena. The match started. The applause that would usually ring out at a time like this was few and far between. Is this because of Zhou Zekai? Feeling this awkward atmosphere at their home game, Chen Guo was smiling in a rather strained way. Tang Rou truly was unpopular, but when she was on the stage, she was still representing Happy. The fans might not like her, but they couldn't not hope for Happy's victory. Thus, when she went on stage to defend the arena, she would usually get some applause. However, this time, it seemed like Happy's fans had given up on her. Chen Guo knew that there was only one reason why this would happen. The fans believed that Happy couldn't possibly win. Why? Because Samsara had almost 2 full health characters left, a huge advantage. Because one of these 2 was Josekai, Glory's number 1. Josekai's strength went beyond just boosting the morale and confidence of his team. He hadn't even gotten on stage yet, and he could already influence the attitudes of the fans. They have Josekai, we can't win. Chen Guo now truly understood Josekai's status in the alliance, seeing how he could create such ideas even in a home game. Chen Guo was a little annoyed at these fans, but not long ago in the Spring Festival event, the passion of their fans had proved how much hope they had in Happy. Perhaps they couldn't be blamed. The only thing to be blamed was the sheer strength of Josekai's presence and how deeply unpopular Tang Rou was. Perhaps, if it was a different member of Happy, they might have gotten some encouragement and support. Chen Guo sighed. Tang Rou's persistence made Chen Guo feel even more helpless than Josekai's strength. That young lady really wasn't soft at all. Was her name given to use as mockery? Chen Guo silently thought in exasperation at that renowned father of Tang Rou's. Wuxia The match begun under the attention, or lack thereof, of the audience. But the players on stage didn't know about the reactions of the crowd. Du Ming was very much looking forward to this match. As the match started, his character Moon Luring Frost made a few more cool poses than he did last match. I never would have expected that we would meet in an official match. Du Ming sent into the chat. Tang Rou replied with a smiley face. Let's give it our all. Du Ming yelled excitedly. Of course. Tang Rou replied. Soft mist charged out and Du Ming's Moon Luring Frost also charged directly. The 2 characters steadily entered each other's views without dodging or retreating, clashing head-on. Tang Rou was once the person who had put Du Ming in the most humiliating position. In the audience player versus pro round of the All-Star Weekend, he had somehow lost to a challenging normal player and twice, too. For a long time, he had become a joke in their circle. But his opponent had been a normal player, while he was a pro. He couldn't go seeking revenge for something like that. Du Ming could only accept his misfortune and was depressed for a good while. That was until the player that had defeated him seemed to have the intentions of going pro, and now, she was finally here on the same stage as Du Ming. Revenge. 2 years had passed, and Du Ming really didn't have any intentions for revenge. However, he couldn't forget that incident. Thus, one day, after he realized that Tang Rou was entering the pro circle too, he began paying attention to her. The target of his attention wasn't one to keep a low profile either. Not long after entering the pro circle, she had gotten into quite the snit with the 1 versus 3 incident. She was the main character of it even. But she didn't manage the 1v3 and broke her promise, going from the protagonist to the antagonist, someone everyone hated. Du Ming was stunned. Disregarding everything else, she was truly a girl with character, and she was also very beautiful. His past grudge had faded and blurred, and Du Ming began to develop a liking for the young lady he had been paying attention to. Especially the 1 versus 3 incident, that had Du Ming's heart aching for her. He really did want to go and support Tang Rou, but just think of his position. After the 1, 2, 3, 4 All-Stars on Team Samsara, then the assassin Wu Qi and cleric Fang Minghua, only then you could get to him. For this sort of sensitive topic, the reporters would casually ask for Samsara's members' opinions, but it would never fall to him to answer. Seeing Josekai hesitate for half a day before spitting out a very strange, really strong, as an answer, Du-ming kind of wanted to go up and punch in his handsome face. Really strong, my ass. What's really strong? Du-ming had never felt so anxious about Josekai's lack of speaking ability. Back then, Du-ming's state could be described as heart in throat. However, he soon realized that his worry was excessive. Though her popularity might have plummeted, Tang Rou's performance was even more stable. In the following period, Happy had performed even better than Samsara. Du-ming's admiration for this young lady shot up another notch. Round 20 had finally arrived and Samsara was once again faced with Happy. This time, Du-ming and Tang Rou had the chance to face each other on stage. Du-ming was hyped, and the Samsara players on the bench were all deep in discussion too. The attention Du-ming had directed at Tang Rou was no secret in Samsara. For example, Jiang Botao, immensely skilled at communicating and reading others, could easily see that this guy had a crush. That guy took his sword and charged. Seems to me he's in a pretty good state. Does this guy want to express his admiration for his goddess by crushing her? Wu Qi wondered aloud, seeing Du-ming's more eager than normal performance. He's probably trying to attract her interest through showing off his own talent. Jiang Botao, as expected, was skilled at understanding others. How childish, like an elementary school kid. Fang Minghua exclaimed. Holy crap! Someone yelled in shock and Samsara's players all face-palmed, lowering their heads in silence for Du-ming. Moon luring frost, charging up excitedly, had been thrown to one side by a circle swing. Has he already been wiped out? Lu Boyuan had a hand over his eyes, peeking at the situation through his fingers. No. Josekai said. I was too careless. Du-ming yelled into the chat. Jesus, this is embarrassing. Samsara's players all decided. He won't start yelling, I love you, or something right then and there, will he? If that's the case, well, the transfer window still had 2 days to go. Let's sell him. Sell him to Happy? That's probably exactly what he wants. Quote, they laughed. On stage, the battle continued. Tien, the Rou, in Tang Rou means soft or gentle, the same soft in soft mist, so, Chen Guo is talking about Tang Rou's birth name, not the name soft mist. End chapter. The King's Avatar, Chapter 1301 Mistakes and Plays Going Beyond One's Skill, audio source, wushawworldaudiobook.com. Chapter 1301, Mistakes and Plays Going Beyond One's Skill. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. Du-ming had been a bit too excited when he went onto the stage. The instant he went forward to make the first attack, he had still been wondering whether he should chat some more. But with Tang Rou's current skill level, how could it be so easy to deal with her? Tang Rou immediately saw a huge opening. A circle swing came out, and Du-ming's moon luring frost kneeled. Again, Du-ming's mind raced like galloping grass mud horses. He had wanted to put on an eye-catching performance, but as soon as the fight began, his show was smashed apart. He had let such a huge opening appear and be taken advantage of. How could he show any face? Du-ming panicked and blurted out, I was careless. But this was a competition. Wasn't giving this sort of explanation to the opponent even more shameful than being beaten down? Luckily, besides Samsara's players, no one else thought that. The viewers thought Du-ming was saying these words to his teammates, explained to them the reason for his mistake. Tang Rou saw Du-ming's shout, but why would she care? While Du-ming's moon luring frost hastily got back up, soft mist spear whistled towards him, once again putting Du-ming into a panic. To put it simply, Du Ming looked excited, but his excitement wasn't excitement for the match. It was excitement for meeting Tang Rou again in a match. As a result, he wasn't actually in a competitor's mentality. His performance wasn't as stable as when he had fought against Mo Fan previously. He kneeled as soon as the fight started, and then Tang Rou's crazy offensive instantly took out 20% of his health. Too shameful. 2 years ago, he could have said that he had been caught off guard facing a normal player and had been too careless, but this time, if he lost again, wouldn't that indicate how incompetent he was? "I can't lose," Du Ming shouted in his heart. After Soft Mist's combo ended, he immediately launched a counter-attack. Isn't Du Ming being too impatient? Even Pan Lin instantly saw the issue. Tang Rou's combo had ended, but the situation hadn't reset back to zero. She still held the initiative. The combo had finished, but her offense hadn't ended yet. Her attacks were linked very closely together, yet Du Ming unexpectedly wanted to counterattack despite these circumstances. It just wasn't a good decision. Sure enough, Du Ming only just started his counterattack before Tang Rou's follow-up attack smashed it apart, and another combo started. This Du Ming. At the All-Stars weekend 2 years ago, he hadn't just lost to a normal player, but Tang Rou, who had only just started playing the game. He lost a lot of face there. It looks like he wants to redeem himself. Holding these thoughts, it's no surprise he's in a rush. I hope he can quickly calm himself down. Li Yibo was quite confident with his analysis this time because there was no other explanation he could think of. If he knew that Du Ming's train wreck of a performance stemmed from his crush on Tang Rou, his mind would also be racing like galloping grass mud horses. Soft Mist started another combo. The damage from this combo was even higher than the last. Moon Luring Frost lost 23% of his health. He only had 48% health remaining now, not even half. As for Tang Rou's Soft Mist, because she had traded blows at the start, she only lost 4% of her health from this exchange, which was already lower than usual. All of this was because of Du Ming's unusually poor playing. Damn, this is the pace to a blowout. Samsara's players had been joking around in the beginning, but now, their tone was more serious. They knew about Du Ming's thoughts, so they could understand why he hadn't been able to contain his excitement at the start of the match, but he still hadn't adjusted his mindset. This wasn't right. As a pro player, personal feelings should not be affecting your playing to such an extent. If he really lost in such a manner, the team would need to give him a harsh reprimandment. Samsara's players stopped their banter. Their eyes were focused on the match. After 2 combos, his character was not even at half health, while his opponent had only lost 4%. What am I doing? Du Ming asked himself honestly. I might have been waiting this match for a long time, but haven't I been too negligent? This was a competition. When competing, I should be going in with a steady mindset. Getting too excited or getting too indifferent is no good, and Team Samsara is the best in the alliance at this point. Despite having won 2 championships already, we've always kept our calm, never arrogant in victory and never hateful in defeat. I haven't won or lost, yet I've become a complete mess just because I'm meeting a girl I like. Yes, a complete mess. No one was more clear than him, just how terrible he had been playing. He could lose, but not like this. Come. Tang Rou didn't try to understand Du Ming's mindset and started off with 2 combos. Her combos were smooth and successful. She obviously didn't plan on stopping here. Her third wave of attacks instantly arrived. Triple slash. Du Ming's Moon Luring Frost suddenly dashed out at an unexpected moment. Du Ming is really being too impatient. Pan Lin shouted. Li Yibo was just about to add to these words, but the match progressed extremely fast. Moon Luring Frost looked like he was just about to crash into Soft Mist's attack, but instead just barely dodged it. It had been an extremely narrow dodge. Was it a coincidence? Or had Du Ming suddenly become precise? Du Ming quickly told everyone the answer. The instant he brushed past the attack, the second slash came out. When he dodged the attack, his sword struck Soft Mist, and his moon-luring frost moved horizontally, using the second slash to circle around Soft Mist. The third slash followed closely afterwards, and the instant it hit, moon-luring frost was behind Soft Mist. Everyone was dumbstruck, including the players on both teams. Du Ming's sudden burst had been completely outside everyone's expectations. His play had been extremely fast and precise. Fast wasn't difficult for an overly excited Du Ming, and it was precisely because of that extraordinary speed that Samsara's players felt like he had exceeded his skill level. But with speed, Du Ming lost precision. Because although he was excited, his mindset wasn't in the right place. His attention wasn't on the match. Without any focus, how could he be precise? As a result, Du Ming might have been fast, but he was also imprecise. It was how Soft Mist was able to instantly break through his attacks and complete two devastating combos. However, Du Ming had finally become focused again. This triple slash had been beyond his skill level, and for a moment, Tang Rou wasn't able to keep up with the sudden change in pace. Two of the three slashes had struck Soft Mist, and moon-luring frost had also circled behind her. Du Ming's counter-attack was truly resounding this time. A flurry of sword slashes along with increased damage from back attacks splattered blood across the air. Du Ming had the nickname Berserk Blade Master for a reason. The word Wuxia Berserk showed precisely what his playstyle was like. And right now, he was going wild, an extremely precise wildness. A full combo landed on Soft Mist's back. 31%. This was the total damage dealt by Du Ming's combo. It was far higher than anything Tang Rou had done. One reason was because Du Ming's combo had been from the back. Another reason was because Soft Mist's equipment was still a little bit lacking compared to moon-luring frost's. Soft Mist's health instantly plummeted to 65%. As for moon-luring frost, after completing his combo, he hadn't received any damage. All of Tang Rou's attempts at resisting had been blocked by him. Moon-luring frost's health was still at 48%. 65% to 48%. The gap didn't seem that large anymore. This time, Du Ming did not show mercy to those who had wronged him. He wasn't finished with just one combo and followed up with more attacks. Berserk Blade Master. Du Ming's style was actually very similar to Tang Rou's. He was good at fighting for the initiative, forcing fights, and violent attacks. However, Tang Rou wasn't caught unprepared like last time. Her spear, dancing fire, flowing flames, and Du Ming's lightsaber, lingering ice, clashed. Just from the name, it sounded like a battle of ice and fire. The glow given by the two weapons intertwined as if trying to devour the other. The battle has only just begun. Quote, this clash pulled the battle back to a point where neither side had the advantage. Du Ming had the time, so he immediately typed out a message. Apart from fighting each other in this match, he also hoped that they could have a bit of chat together. Of course, telling the other side, "This is my true power," through these words was also a bit of selfishness on his part. There's no saving him. Quote, when they saw Du Ming back to his usual self, Samsara's players returned to their relaxed state. And seeing how that guy even felt the need to say a few words, they collectively put their hands to their foreheads. Shouldn't he win the fight before spouting nonsense? Samsara's players started discussing amongst themselves. But if he wins, who will listen to his nonsense? It looks like he's got the guts to chase after her to Happy's side and worm his way into a relationship. He sounds so pitiful. But if it's like this, can we feel relaxed putting him in the team competition? There's nothing we can do. The lineup is already locked in. All 5 players need to win this match. What if his mind is too preoccupied with other things? He looks fine right now. He looks fine right now, but what about afterwards? He'll feel like he performed well in front of his goddess, and then he'll go crazy thinking he's in heaven. What then? That really might be a problem. Yes, we can't be careless. We'll have to shoulder his burden in the team competition. Hey. At this moment, Wu Qi interrupted their discussion. He isn't even playing in the team competition. I'm the 6th player. End chapter. The King's Avatar. Chapter 1302. The Belief for Victory. Audio source, wushaworldaudiobook.com. Chapter 1302. The Belief for Victory. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. Duming had recovered his usual form. His performance was slightly better than usual, aided by the fact that he was somewhat excited today. But what about Tang Rou? She worked as hard as always. She never let her guard down, regardless of the situation or the opponent. The publicized bet for a 1v3 had already passed, but in Tang Rou's mind, she still hadn't achieved her goal of a 1v3. Even though she was the anchor in the group arena, and there weren't 3 opponents for her to beat up, Tang Rou always played with the mindset to do so. Duming switched suddenly from making extraordinary blunders to making extraordinary plays. This large variation did catch Tang Rou off guard, but her mental state wasn't affected. Strive for victory. Tang Rou would always have this mentality. Regardless of whether her opponent was weak or strong, regardless of whether her opponent was blundering or playing beautifully. Duming used the chat, thinking that Tang Rou would now acknowledge his skill. Unfortunately for him, Tang Rou didn't consider anything along those lines. Bring him down. That was the only thing she was thinking. If Duming knew that his goddess's attitude towards him was so single-minded, who knew how long he'd be depressed for? Thankfully he didn't know, so he felt some satisfaction that his goddess could witness him playing better than his normal skill. However, when he said, "The battle has only just begun," Tang Rou definitely hadn't just begun. While Duming considered this a reset and an opportunity to regain the upper hand, Tang Rou maintained her rhythm and clung on to any opportunities to launch attacks. Duming thought that typing some words in this situation would be no big deal. He still underestimated Tang Rou's drive for victory, and also her tunnel vision for it. She had zero intentions of chatting with Duming. The words that Duming thought were no big deal actually caused him to momentarily lose initiative. Tang Rou was once again given the role of the aggressor. Magic emanated from and swirled around soft mist, while she wildly charged towards the gates of victory. Duming didn't expect to be suppressed so soon. Even though his mental state was quite steady right now and he defended well, Tang Rou's offensive also felt more concentrated than before. This tireless attitude was really indistinguishable from that time. Duming's mind started wandering again, rewinding to the All-Stars weekend from 2 years ago, when his team Samsara was hosting. A beautiful newbie was fortunate enough to get the chance to challenge him. Berserk Blade Master Duming didn't want to be cruel and pick on this pretty girl. Turns out the pretty girl was cruel and picked on him, promptly destroying him when they fought. Duming had been anxious. Disregarding the rules, he quickly issued another challenge which he won. The girl then accepted and won again. Du Ming felt ashamed and restless at the time, and with no regard for anything else, kept fighting. Then he somehow summoned God Yishu, who taught him a new one. Du Ming was very bitter at the time. He was very bitter that the newbie made him lose face big time. But now, thinking back, why did he feel a sense of sweet nostalgia? What would have happened at the time if it wasn't for the meddling Yishu? What would have happened if they kept fighting? Du Ming even started fantasizing about how the story could have continued. Boom! Magic gathered in front of Moon Luring Frost's chest and exploded loudly. His guard had been broken through. Crap! Du Ming realized that his concentration had slipped yet again. Facing this matter, it really was hard to control his own emotions. Du Ming hastily controlled Moon Luring Frost to try to salvage the situation, but he was too late. Tang Rou would never let an opportunity slip, and Du Ming was met with an intense wave of attacks. This formed a complete offensive when combined with the previous wave of attacks. Moon Luring Frost was thrown around by the magical explosions, and his health dropped in chunks. Next time, I definitely won't lose, Du Ming called out, still yelling. He couldn't be more embarrassing if he tried. Samsara's players did not know whether to laugh or cry. Du Ming's performance really was unacceptable. It was fortunate that Samsara still had a big advantage. What if this was the deciding match? What if this match was the championship finals? This kind of unstable performance would render his entire team's effort for naught. Du Ming returned from the stage. Samsara's players put away their laughing and joking faces they had during the match and switched to looking at him with austere expressions. Du Ming nodded his head. Of course he knew where his problem laid. He did take control of the situation at some point, but somehow it slipped from his grasp in the final moments of the battle. Du Ming wanted to give a reason for his failure, but it was embarrassing to open up about subjects such as crushes. You played rigidly, and your concentration was off, said Jiang Botao. Yeah, Du Ming nodded. He couldn't argue against that. Our captain is very angry. He said you didn't put enough importance on the competition. When the whole team was working hard for victory, you were too engaged with your own thoughts. If this were the championship match and we lost the points because you were distracted and we ended up losing the championship, what would you do? Wu Qi said. Du Ming raised his head in surprise. The captain said that much? Yeah, the captain's rage induced many words. Wu Qi said. Du Ming rolled his eyes. Wu Qi was definitely just trolling. However, the words may have been nonsense, but idea behind it was not. What if Samsara really lost their chance at 3 consecutive championships because of him? When Du Ming thought about this, he suddenly felt a wave of fear. This really should not have happened. Du Ming raised his head and watched the replay from his match. 70% of his play in this match was trash. As someone with experience, I know this is quite difficult for you. But you need to learn to control it. No matter what happens, it should not affect your performance on stage. Samsara's cleric player Fang Minghua said. In esports, the average age of the players was very young. There was a big pile of players who were still in their teens, and very few were married. But Samsara's Fang Minghua was one of the few who was. I will. Du Ming nodded his head. On stage, the final battle of the group arena was about to start. Samsara's captain Zhou Zekai had already entered the stage, and the countdown for the start of the battle quickly began. That win came pretty easily. Quote, on Happy's side, Fang Rui expressed his opinion as his team were discussing the match that just concluded. Yeah, that kid from Samsara is very inconsistent. Ye Zhu said. Wasn't Du Ming the one who lost to Little Tang twice in the All-Stars weekend 2 years ago? I bet he lost his calm today after seeing her. Ha. Chen Guo laughed. Probably. Ye Zhu nodded. Du Ming's crush was completely known to the people at Happy, whom he had never interacted with. This match. Chen Guo looked at the stage and the loading bars for the two characters, and didn't know what to say. Even though Tang Rou had just won, there was a period where Du Ming performed above expectations. After that, there was also a steady period where he defended well. Du Ming still managed to grind down some of Soft Mist's health, which now sat at exactly 50%. Now, she was to face the number one in glory, Zhou Zekai. Can she win? Chen Guo felt her heart leap. If she really won, surely Tang Rou would become a hero. Even Happy fans who didn't like her would relish in the fact that she defeated Zhou Zekai with 50% health, since this was glory that belonged to all of Team Happy. If it was like this, then everyone would slowly change their opinion of Tang Rou. It would only be a matter of time before they started liking her again. A sense of belief brewed within Chen Guo's mind. She also felt the change of atmosphere from the viewers. Their disinterest when Tang Rou entered the stage melted away. Expending 50% health to deal with Du Ming was nowhere near enough to establish confidence in anyone, but it did give them a sliver of belief. The player currently on stage was not like the viewers. She would not lose her fighting spirit just because she had to face Zhou Zekai. She was pushing her limits. She worked hard to bring one down, and there was no doubt in anyone's mind that she would continue to work hard. Maybe she would work even harder to bring down the next one. Zhou Zekai, the number one in glory, would make many players lose part of their will to fight before the fight even started. To them, losing against him was almost an expectation. No one could see this attitude at all on Tang Rou. She was just a rookie. If she lost here, not even her haters would be able to make a big deal out of it. But Tang Rou herself carried the air of someone who wouldn't forgive herself for losing. Once again, she charged forward, poised for victory, with no regard for anything else. The first to attack was Cloud Piercer. A fight between a ranged class and a melee class would always start off advantageous for the ranged class. The dance between the two opponents consisted of the melee class attempting to close the distance and the ranged class attempting to maintain it. WuxaWorldAudio.com. At the start, it might seem one-sided. The ranged class uses the melee class for target practice. But as soon as the melee class got close, they could potentially reverse the ranged class's advantage in one fell swoop. Charge forward. Soft Mist darted around through the hailstorm of bullets. A sharpshooter was a subclass that has perfected the art of shooting. It didn't have the same fancy array of armaments compared to its three cousin subclasses. It only focused on guns and bullets. Its skills revolved around various methods for shooting. Quick shots, spread shots, dual wielding, chains. The sharpshooter had the most shooting styles and stances. The hailstorm of bullets they unleashed was a true bullet storm. There was little smoke and explosion, just bullet after bullet whizzing past. Can she make the charge? Soft Mist advanced in what was probably the strongest bullet storm of the Alliance. Every step forward seemed that much more difficult. Cloud Pierce's health was still full while Soft Mist's continued decaling. However, she seemed like the one with an advantage right now, because the distance between the characters that determined life and death was shrinking slowly but surely. Her health was not being wasted. Charge. Destroy him. Gradually, this voice appeared in everyone's heads. At this moment, they forgot who the opponent was. They forgot their mindset that losing to this opponent was only normal. Charge. A shout suddenly erupted in the stadium. Soft Mist finally covered the whole distance. With 17% health remaining, she managed to charge directly up to Cloud Pierce's face. Destroy him. Happy's fans had long forgotten about their previous cold shoulder of Tang Rou, and hollered madly. Although Soft Mist's remaining health was low, sometimes a melee class could decide the outcome of the battle in one direct confrontation with a ranged class. The two sides would have vastly different fighting styles and had huge differences in strength at different attacking distances. But, bang 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 bang, Cloud Piercer continued shooting. Even though Soft Mist was next to him, he used the sharpshooter's taijutsu skills. Cloud Piercer began directly trading with Soft Mist. Gunfu. This wasn't a skill described by the game. Rather, it was a high-end technique invented by the players themselves by mixing and matching skills. Most in the online game could only use taijutsu. Gunfu was a technique that only pro-level players could achieve. Because of its immense difficulty, it was still difficult to gain an advantage using Gunfu against a pure melee class. It mostly just prevented sharpshooters from being helpless once locked in close combat, unlike other long-range classes. Right now, Joe Zekai showed off his Gunfu. Legs, knees, elbows, as well as bullets. They entered into a brawl with the spear that was in Soft Mist's hand. It could be seen that even Joe Zekai using Gunfu could not suppress Tang Rou. His skill only carried him that far. Gunfu was indeed very sophisticated, being very swift and accurate. However, it still lacked a melee class's ferocity. Its sophistication could not suppress this wave of ferocity. He might have been able to deal significant damage, but the ability to control and limit the opponent was too weak. This was the drawback of Gunfu. However, the difference between the health of the two characters was far too large. When Soft Mist got into her attack range, her health was 17% compared to Cloud Pierce's 100%. Joe Zekai's Gunfu was indeed more skillful. The Great Gunner Cloud Pierce's equipment was also much stronger than Soft Mist's. Therefore, even though Joe Zekai's Gunfu could not suppress Tang Rou's Soft Mist, he could just rely on trading health. Everyone knew that the victory this round still belonged to Joe Zekai. In the end, this was the reality. After getting close, Joe Zekai chose to fight head-on against Tang Rou with Gunfu. Tang Rou could only reply by fighting head-on. She already got that far. There was no second option. Finally, Soft Mist fell. That tiny sliver of belief did not bear fruit. However, that was only this one time. What about next time? What would happen next time? Cloud Piercer still had 75% health remaining. During the explosive melee, Soft Mist's 17% health managed to trade away 25% of Cloud Piercer's. What if Soft Mist entered the battle with full health? Starting at 100% and paying a 33% gap closing tax, how much damage would she able to do with the remaining 67% health? 98.5%. So close to 100%. If Soft Mist started on full health this fight, she would only be 1.5% health from victory. Maybe she really could have done it. Of course, if it was a fair fight where both started on full health, Joe Zekai probably wouldn't use Gunfu to force out the ending. Rather, he'd seek a chance to keep the distance. Regardless, this theoretical calculation still let people see hope. With hope, there would be belief. For Tang Rou, there was a belief that she could defeat Joe Zekai. Happy lost the group arena. However, when Tang Rou left the stage, she heard applause for the first time in a long time. Applause directed towards her. Tang Rou smiled. She could bear the coldest reception and continue walking forward with her head held high. However, support and encouragement would always allow one to feel happiness. How amazing! Du Ming exclaimed, upon seeing the atmosphere change throughout the stadium. Then he met the eternal stares of all his teammates. Using gun fu to crush a battle mage, how amazing. Captain, I'm your biggest fanboy. Du Ming hollered at Zhou Zekai as he left the stage. End chapter.